everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we are joined by co-founders of Legacy Expeditions and retired Navy SEALs, Andy Stumpf and Mike Sarraille. Andy and Mike, welcome. You guys obviously have known each other for a long time. We were just talking before the show, and you guys seem to have quite a time together. You're both, as I just said, former Navy SEALs. I want to tell you about my thoughts about why I should have been a Navy SEAL in a moment. But how did you guys meet? And I want to say also thank you for your service to our country. Andy, take it away.
Yeah, Mike and I actually have not known each other at a personal level for very long. I was aware of who he was peripherally inside of the SEAL community. It's very small, but huge at the same time. If you don't work directly with somebody, you might recognize a last name or a duty station that they're at. But if they're not there in the office with you every day at your team, you really don't know who they are. And so I would say about 2 years ago is when we started working with each other on a nearly day-to-day basis. But the beauty of the community that we come from is there's so many similarities because we all have the same origin, screening and selection, and it just kind of continues. So you can go into a room of people you've never met and have some really close bonds and friendships almost instantaneously.
I love it. So then, Mike, how did you guys meet? You just bumped into each other at like a SEAL convention type of thing? How did it go?
I was criticizing his mission planning skills at SEAL Team 3.
Yeah. So, Andy and I did meet in 2008 as he was coming to SEAL Team 3. He was coming from JSOC. So Andy was in the SEAL teams long before I was, and he had a lot more credibility. And then I eventually went to JSOC in the exact unit he came from. But, the one thing about our profession is it's very easy to verify people's reputations. And at the end of the day, all you have is your credibility and reputation. And usually when somebody says it and there's like an inflection, like, oh, like that guy's a good dude, it means a lot of things. And so I think our values aligned. And I came to Andy through a mutual friend because I know he has a passion for skydiving and adventure, and say, hey, I'm putting this concept together. I love what he does with his podcast. He represents the SEALs a lot better than about 99% of us. And I think it was a quick yes, Andy, if I remember. You're like, I'm in. I think I actually spoke for too long. He's like, stop talking. I'm in.
Well, I love it. First of all, I think that there's probably nothing cooler, as far as I'm concerned, than being a Navy SEAL. Rewind to maybe like 20 years ago, I was 100% convinced that at some point someone was going to come to me and be like, listen, we need you to go through SEAL training. I mean, this is was my G.I. Jane moment. P.S. What do you guys think of G.I. Jane? Did you love it or hate it? Because I feel like you probably hated it.
Well, first off, that day could still come. We don't know. Somebody might knock on your door.
I think I've aged out. I felt like somebody was going to knock on my door and be like, we need you, and this is the time, and now is your moment. And I'm still waiting. I don't understand what's taking so long. But what did you think of G.I. Jane? Because obviously I was a fan.
Yeah, it was an interesting show. What I tell people, and almost everything they read in any book or they see on a screen of any type, it's very likely inaccurate as to the realities.
You don't say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're designed for entertainment and not necessarily education. It's probably the best way that I could put it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was talking to a mutual colleague of Andy's, and I don't want to mention his name, but, one of the things that I think Andy and I agree on is the mythology versus the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And the mythology of special operations and SEALs, and, it does have its positives. It does attract the next generation of kids that ask themselves, do I have what it takes to do what they did? But the mythology rarely ever mirrors up with the reality of the men and women that we served with. At the end of the day, they're humans. Bullets don't bounce off them. They're mixed bags. It's not what Hollywood paints. And I think that's what makes it so special, man. The one thing that, Hollywood does get right is it very much is a band of brothers. The men and women you serve alongside, there's a concept called shared adversity. And when you go through conflict together, when you go through hardship together, those are bonds that can never be broken, sometimes for good and for worse.
Totally understand that. And I think that is incredible that you guys have that and that, it continues, lifelong really, because no one else could appreciate what you guys have gone through, whether it's, by the way, in combat or training, because Let me tell you, I mean, I think that's what attracts people to try to become a SEAL. And I don't know, what is the dropout rate? Do you guys know of buds of the training?
In the summer months, it'll hover at around 75%. And in the winter
Wow.
months, it'll go into the high 80s. And there have been classes where it's in the low 90th percentile. And it's important to remember that that's just the 6 months. That's your job it's you're submitting your application for the job.
Right.
There's probably 18 months of training that goes on beyond that just to arrive at an operational SEAL team. And they'll lose a few more people in that process. I don't really have data to support that, but it weeds out far more than it puts through, and for the right reasons.
Yeah. I mean, and that must be such an incredible feeling to, first of all, make it through that portion of training, but then to do all of it and to go into combat and be a representative of America and fight on behalf of our country as a Navy SEAL. But let me ask you both, what was the toughest or worst part of military training? Because I think so many people would assume maybe that is it, but I don't know, Mike, what was the worst part for you, or toughest part maybe?
So buds, you can't sugarcoat it. Buds is it sucks. And I think actually what people get wrong is that's Andy just alluded to it. That's the entrance exam to get into the community. And if you think the tough training stops there, it doesn't. I think the toughest part is you continue to do tough training and you do it all the time. And so there's this monotony with the training that sets in to the point where you're like, geez, just let's deploy to war by this point.
Yeah. So much easier.
Well, and it's how we buy down risk. It's, the 10,000 hours to mastery, especially like Andy and his guys. I mean, those guys were doing CQC all the time. That's close quarters combat, fighting inside a house to become as good as they got. But the training never stops. And for some people, they're like, after 4 or 5 years in the SEAL teams, they're like, thanks, I had my fun, but they're done at that point.
Well, I imagine that at this point, you guys have lived through it. You've been deployed. You've done all that. Let me get your take on the current state of our military, because I still have family who is currently serving our country in different branches of the military. It seems like maybe things are slightly different these days. Let me go back to G.I. Jane, and when they gave her the step stool, if anyone's seen the movie, to get over the obstacle or whatever it might be, it seems like those sorts of things may be happening in our military training. And from what I understand, people are pretty upset about it, because do you not want the best of the best? Do you not want people to go through the real training and learn about combat and be ready to fight if we need it, and not all of the woke nonsense that seems to have infiltrated our military? What do you guys think?
So a few disclaimers. One, I have an opinion on this, and it's only my own. I just want people to understand. You don't throw this out there. People think that you're speaking for the military in general, which I absolutely don't. I have my own opinion.
Yep.
And two, I've been out of the military for almost 10 years now. So I have connections with people who are still in, but oftentimes you're only going to get, more volume on a particular side of the narrative. So I have some insight, but it is from a little bit of distance. Now, having said those two things, I think people need to understand what the military exists for. It exists to execute foreign policy and to defend this country. And anytime that you take the focus off of those two things, and you're not planning backwards from the end state, like what was our job in the SEAL community? At some point in time, of all the fancy gear and all the training that we did, we were going to find somebody. We were going to geographically locate somebody, find, fix, and then hopefully finish them. So it would require us to be on target, crossing the threshold of a door, likely, at somebody's place of residence that they think is a stronghold in a village that is very difficult to actually access. That was our job. When you look at what you're supposed to be doing, you need to mission plan backwards, and everything that you are going to be doing should be based off of the realities of the execution of your job in the real world. Right. And if you're doing that, that's what your standards should be set from as well. It shouldn't be based on an ideology. What are the demands of this occupation? That is where we set our standards. So I have heard quite a bit from people who are still serving that there are changes that are either attempted, they are attempting to make them, or they have made them. And I start getting concerned when we start looking at a deviation from that standard for the sole purpose of inclusivity, or whatever word that you would want to attach to it, because it directly detracts from the men and women who are on the front line of the military. You know, G.I. Jane is a good example. People don't realize how many women are directly associated with frontline combat oriented roles. And I'm not going to get too deeply into it because there are some sensitive programs designed specifically around them. But anybody who thinks that women aren't there on a daily, hourly, minute by minute basis, they're just uninformed. So they are there. But that selection and their role there is all, again, based off of the standard. If you start modifying these standards because, you know, well, there's differences between, you know, the human body or in beliefs, and all of that's true. And combat doesn't care about any of those things.
Exactly.
It doesn't discriminate. The only thing that should matter is our ability to execute our job as defined by the requirements on the battle space. And any energy wasted outside of that is exactly what it is. It's wasted, in my opinion. And again, I only speak for myself.
Well, and by the way, you could apply that standard pretty much across the board to any job anywhere in the world. To me, the only reason someone should, you know, receive a position, get a job, whatever it is because they have trained for that job and they have met all of the requirements for that job. But unfortunately, it seems like whether we're talking about in our military or in so many other aspects of life and in different industries, that is not the case anymore. And I'll tell you, it's scary whenever you think about the fact that we may not have going forward people who meet those standards and those requirements, and perhaps they are not focused on the training as they should. Heck, think about the doctors who might not have to take the same standardized testing because it might, you know, get somebody's feelings hurt. All of that stuff, I think, is a very slippery slope and very scary for a lot of people. But man, you laid it out perfectly there. So thank you for the explanation. I don't think we even acknowledged, after you guys met, I kind of at the top of the show here, you guys got together for a specific reason, and now you have the 777 expedition. Tell people about this, and you guys do a lot of crazy stuff. Let me just say that.
I don't describe it like that, but I'll let Mike define the 777.
And let me answer that by stepping back. One, the organization's name is Legacy Expeditions.
Okay.
And we all have a legacy, especially our fallen. So, you know, America moves past our fallen soldiers pretty rapidly, and that's a disservice to their legacy. So, you know, Legacy Expeditions exists to take veterans on these extreme adventures. We also are involved in leadership development, experiential leadership development for the private sector. We set up these type of training events, which is great for leadership development for any corporate company. But, you know, even the guys that are live also have a legacy. We want to tell their stories through adventure. You know, we started with Mount Everest. A group of us went out and jumped into Mount Everest. We recently released a documentary called Drop Zone Everest that can be found on a lot of streaming platforms. And we told the story of it.
By jumped into Mount Everest, you mean you jumped off and like parachuted down somewhere, correct?
So out of a helicopter from around 22,000 feet on oxygen. We didn't land on Everest. We landed on a drop zone very close to it. Then Andy and I went to Iceland. We told the story of a couple more veterans. And on this most recent one, the 777, which the 777 is a concept within the skydiving community that's been around for decades. There's a lot of people that have planned for it, tried it, didn't even get to the execution phase. So it's sort of a running joke of like, it just can't be done. Well, you know what, man, I'll tell you what, one thing about the special operations community is tell us something can't be done. Tell Americans something can't be done. We'll find a way. I like to say we have a way of making the seemingly impossible possible. So Andy and I put together a team of just phenomenal individuals, most of them special operations, one Marine Corps Scout Sniper. And for 18 months, we planned, we looked at it logistically, and 777 was more of a logistical challenge than it was in terms of the difficulty of the jumps. But, you know, we just executed it. We set a couple world records. We finished in 6 days, 6 hours, and 6 minutes. But more so, we told the story on each continent of a fallen comrade. And to listen, before we loaded the plane and on each of these continents, one guy would get up and talk about the fallen that we were jumping in honor of.
Wow.
And screw the jumps. The jumps were great. The jump over the pyramids in Egypt was awesome. But to listen to these guys tell the story of these fallen comrades, and you can extract these lessons, you know, Andy talked about Dave Hall, who unfortunately took his life. And Dave Hall had a phrase, what was it? Andy, I'm going to butcher it. Stop acting like a bitch, man up, and get the job done. And that, that's
close enough.
in my
That's
mind.
Completely backwards, but I'll give it to
you. Okay, all right. But it's
got it wrong.
Stop being a victim. Stop being a victim. Take accountability. Get the job done. And that will be with me for the rest of my life. And to hear all these guys talk about those fallen was just phenomenal. That was the best part of the trip, is the camaraderie and the brotherhood that we felt again, and we missed so much for being in the military. And
the 7 is for the continents, correct?
Yeah, so Mike explained all that and forgot to tell you exactly what it was. So
tell me what it is.
There you go.
So we were trying to do, what we set out to do was 7 skydives and seven continents in 7 days. We started in Antarctica and then went to Chile, from Chile to Miami, Miami to Barcelona, Barcelona to Cairo, Cairo to UAE, UAE to Perth. The previous record, I think, was in the 7-month range. To go back to what Mike was talking about, it wasn't a novel concept. Actually, the tandem passenger that we had with us already held the current record for tandems on all 7 continents, but I believe it was also in the months. But we knocked it out in 6 days and 6 hours and a few minutes.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Were you guys on private planes doing this?
We had to take a private plane one time. So when we landed in Miami, we started receiving notifications that the NOTAM system from the FAA had just gone down. So of course, in the 18 months of planning, we execute this thing and we land in the U.S. on the one morning that the U.S. FAA NOTAM system is having problems. And as we were driving to the drop zone, we got emails that, hey, your flights are canceled, which obviously a problem. But this goes back to, I personally describe special operations as nonlinear problem solving. That's really all it is. They throw problems at you and you either solve them or you don't. And they spend a career and a lifetime, teaching you how to keep your emotions in check, how to think about things objectively and critically, and, assess, mitigate, risk, all sorts of things. So we get to the drop zone. We knew that there was issues with the civilian aircraft, and we reached out to our team. We got everybody together and we started reaching out to our network. We were able to find a jet. We were able to find a way to pay for it, and we had it locked in within an hour. And then we went and did the jump and got back down on the road to Miami. It goes directly back into the world that we came from.
Yeah, figuring it out.
Well, I've never executed. We used to spend days planning military operations. And in the hundreds of military operations that I've been on, exactly and precisely 0 have gone as planned. So it's almost expected that you're going to have issues, and you just learn to work your way through them. And it actually, I think we arrived in Barcelona within 20 minutes of our scheduled civilian aircraft that was supposed to arrive there.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. It sounds, honestly, I'm not a special operations SEAL team member. Yeah, exactly. They're going to knock on my door maybe next week. I don't know. But I am a mom of 2 young kids, and I swear it's the same thing. No matter how much I plan, something's going to go wrong. Somebody's going to get sick. Someone's going to leave something. Whatever it is, you got to adapt. You got to figure it out. So perhaps I'll fit right in whenever they come and ask me to join the team. But you guys, did this because you wanted to honor our men and women who paid the ultimate price for our freedom, those who were not so lucky to come home, and those who came home and maybe came home a little damaged. And I don't know how you come back without having your life altered in some way. Let me ask you guys about that, because there are so many people who fight for our country and they come home and they have a lot of challenges reacclimating into society and finding their footing as a civilian once again. How was that for you? Maybe Mike, I'll start with you. And how do you think we can better help those as they come back and transition back into a normal life?
So war is hell. War is ugly. And of course you don't come back the same. My parents look at me and they're like, when you left, you were a smiling, laughing kid, and there was just the seriousness about you. Did I transition well? No, I didn't. And everyone goes through that transition out of the military, the same way. But you often hear the term post-traumatic stress. Mm-hmm. It's not a disorder. What that is the normal reactions to the abnormal conditions of war. War, I'm stealing this from Andy, it leaves a fingerprint off you that you can never wash off. And I think for Andy and I and our sort of peer group, it's not the booms and the bangs that bothered us. It's not killing the enemy. It's the fact that we left brothers behind. They didn't come home. And it's, another form of PTSD is called survivor's guilt. And I think that's what bothered me the most. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, is their stories die if we stop telling them. And so our new mission is to tell their stories in an entertaining way. And hopefully people can take just 1 or 2 points of how that person lived their lives and how they can implement it in their lives and live better. Because these were amazing men and women that gave their tomorrow for our today. And I know that sounds cliche.
No, but it's true. I mean, it's 100% true. And I think, look, I encourage everyone, if you ever see anyone, wherever you are, in any sort of military gear, thank them for their service. You see a police officer, sheriff's deputy, same thing. I mean, what you guys did and what happens every day that we don't even acknowledge with the people who sacrifice, who are away from their families, away from their lives here. We should always remember that. And I am personally so grateful. And I know so many are. So I always encourage people to say thank you. Andy, what about for you? How was it coming back home?
So I describe war, Mike, like you said, he stole a sliver of it. But what I tell people is if you touch war, it touches you back. I think the only way to come back from an occupation like we have or had and not be changed would be to be a sociopath going into it. It's just an abnormal occupation. It's extremely normal people who are tasked with doing very abnormal things, and they become very good at it. But one narrative I would like to change is around post-traumatic stress. That's all you ever hear is PTS and PTSD. And speaking personally, war was the most beautiful thing that I have ever experienced. And it was also the most horrific thing that I've ever experienced, and everything in between the two. But what I can say is that I am a better version of myself because of my experiences. So we have to stop looking at just post-traumatic stress, and you have to start looking at post-traumatic growth. And the issue with that is that the impetus is on the individual. And you asked, what can people do to help? And I'm going to throw an asterisk on that because it can actually go too far. There can be too many hands that are put out. There can be too many programs that are out there. And I've seen this happen time and time again, where people who come from even just a military background in general, they are given far too much rope because of what they used to do. And they end up hanging themselves with it, metaphorically, obviously not physically. But people tolerate things that they shouldn't because he used to be a SEAL, or he used to be a soldier, or he used to be a fill in the blank, or her, of course. Right. And I actually think military members should be held to a higher standard. I think that they should be given less slack and less rope because there has been an inordinate amount of time, energy, and effort put into us, even at a basic level in a non-special operations capacity. You go through boot camp, you're going to go through your MOS or your job training in whatever branch that you are in, and you should have an understanding of integrity and discipline and time management and communication. Like that's just ubiquitous across all of the services. To me, I feel like as a veteran, I feel even more pressure to perform now that I'm outside of the military because I want to set a standard and an example for people because of the amount of time, energy, and effort that was put into me. I don't want a handout. I don't participate, honestly, in any veteran-related organizations other than the 777 and the Folds of Honor fundraising that we were doing. Because I don't feel like I did enough to be deserving of those things. And I want to leave those opportunities and organizations better off, with more ability and capacity to serve others. My theory on it is very different than most people. I don't think veterans deserve a handout at all. I think they should be held to a higher standard because I know that they're capable of it. But that post-traumatic growth, the things that we were exposed to and asked to do, sometimes they're horrendous. Yes. Are there tools that you can use to deal with and work through those things? Absolutely. Are they perfect? No, they're not. And it may take you the rest of your life to be able to do that. But that's your responsibility and nobody else's. And if you can do that, though, you'll be a better version of yourself and you'll be more capable than you thought that you could ever be. Post-traumatic growth is actually what I think we should be focusing on, not the stress, because it's not a disorder. I agree with Mike.
Yeah.
Well, Laura, let me add this, and it goes back to your earlier question. If given an opportunity to go back and more and experience what I did, what I do it, I would pay every cent I have to watch guys like Andy and our boys and the men and women. I got to watch selfless valor on a nightly basis. I was in awe of the men and women I served alongside. And Andy's right. War brings out both the best and the worst in man. And, this goes back to politics infiltrating in the military. The military and normal society have different cultural values. And U.S. society should not try to change the military to conform to them. That's one of them. In U.S. society, individuality is sort of a value. Within the military, conformity, not groupthink. Right. We still challenge it. If I tell Andy, hey, we need to do this, and it's a stupid idea, even if I outrank Andy and he's in the SEAL teams, he's gonna be like, no, we're not doing that. So we want critical thinkers, but in the military, we put we over me. In U.S. society, that doesn't happen.
It's the opposite.
And we put a precedent on leadership, and as Andy said, integrity. And when a veteran comes back to normal society and those values and what we hold dear, the sense of tribe, it makes that transition very difficult because you're on your own. Unfortunately, we don't transition out of the military. We in the SEAL teams put this precedence on something we call swim buddies. Wherever you go, you always bring a buddy with us. But when you transition out of the military, you don't transition as swim buddies. You transition out, by yourself individually. And all of a sudden, you're in the military, you're in the SEAL teams one day, and the next day you're waking up on your couch as a civilian. You're like, what do I do now? And I'm in a completely different environment where people have a different value set.
Yeah, and a different, standards are different and expectations are different. I totally get it. And Andy, I don't discount what you said. I think that perhaps there is a better way to look at it, and maybe we need to do something on the front end. I don't know, to prepare people. Not that you could ever prepare for something like that, but it is pretty incredible what you guys experience whenever you are on a battlefield, whenever you're in a war zone. And there's some adrenaline rush that happens, right? I always look at people who do things like, Andy, I read that you did a skydive from like 36,000 feet and that you traveled 18 miles in a wingsuit. I mean, is there is it almost like you're trying to catch that adrenaline again? The fact that you guys continue to do these, I call them crazy because I don't do them, but people think things I do are crazy too, like triathlons and stuff. Not that holds a candle to anything you guys have done, but is there some aspect of that?
I can't speak for Mike, but I never, it was my goal to be as competent as possible and as experienced as possible on target, so I didn't experience adrenaline. And that's not to say that I was emotionless, but I just wanted to keep my emotions out of my decision-making process because I'm just not aware of an upside to involving emotions in decision-making.
It would help a lot of people to keep their emotions out of decision-making.
Don't get it started.
Starting point for most people. But it's easier said than done. I'm not perfect at it by any stretch. Yeah. I will get spun up at things that I shouldn't be, and I constantly am trying to be objective and reassess who I am and how I'm behaving. But so the job wasn't an adrenaline seeking thing. When I first started skydiving 20 plus years ago, there was definitely an adrenaline rush for that. But after 20 years, it's not really a matter of adrenaline. It's just enjoyment. It's fun.
Wow.
And you can do cool stuff with your friends. So the wingsuit, that actually was my first endeavor into fundraising. And I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to still help. I used to have a job. Very few people are actually issued an American flag. Most people can go out and buy one or rent one, but it's a very small amount of people that actually get issued that as part of their uniform. And it's a special thing. And one day, they may let you keep the uniform, but it means something different. Your time has passed and you've moved on. Supporting the families left behind is probably, in my mind at least, the next best thing that you can possibly do. Because although people like to look at, say, a JSOC operator, the network of people that enable that person to do what they do, and that starts at the family level, is unbelievable. Without that support, They wouldn't be able to do their job. So fundraising for the families, I thought it was a natural extension of finding some more purpose and being involved. But I had to look at the things that I knew how to do. And I had been skydiving for a long time, and I really enjoyed it. And I needed to find something that would gather people's attention. And don't get me wrong, if I had known how to juggle chainsaws, I would have done that. But I don't know how to juggle chainsaws.
The next thing you'll do, obviously.
No, I don't want to know how to juggle. I do like chainsaws because I live in Montana, but they're dangerous enough just one at a time. So I found a brand. It was a really interesting collision of things in my life. It was the first time I had ever worked with a brand from an ambassador perspective. So after that, for years, I was a professional skydiver and base jumper. So I was doing ambassador type roles and sponsorship roles. But finding the brand and aligning with them to create a piece of content that gets people's eyeballs on that content. And for clarity, the skydive and all skydives are utterly meaningless. They're rewarding for the individual, but they mean nothing. So it was all about getting people to look at what I was doing so then I could lateral that attention over to something that mattered. Mike and I discussed this when we set our fundraising goal for the 777. Out of everything I've ever done in my life, raising money is the most difficult thing to do.
I hear that.
Or we just suck at it that badly. I think we're still
I'm going to say answer C is correct. Both of those.
Well, how much money have you guys raised?
Between Andy and Andy, I looked at everything. We've probably raised between Andy, myself, and Legacy Expeditions probably close to $2 million. I'm taking Vetted Foundation into account.
Wow.
But right now we're probably around 700,000. Our goal was 7 million for Folds of Honor. So for the 777, we wanted to raise for Folds of Honor. When Andy and I aligned with these
7 million or 7 continents, 7 jumps, 7 days, $1 million, that just sounds like trash. So he's got to be.
You need to put the 7.
Yeah.
We had to do it. I told Mike up front, I'm like, hey man, I don't think we're going to get very close to this, but we're going to do our best effort.
Yeah,
it's tough. Believe me, fundraising is very tough, especially these days. People don't have a lot of extra cash just lying around to give out. If people do want to,
self-inflicted wound.
100% self-inflicted. We did not need to be here. However, here we are, and it impacts everyone, especially, and, in particular, those who are trying to fundraise. If people want to donate, though, do you guys have a website or something?
We do. It is the word triple, the number 7. So 777.givesmart.com.
Holy
and it goes
moly.
to Folds of Honor. So the one thing is we don't touch the money. And Folds of Honor is a great organization. When we pair with these veteran nonprofits, one, we need to make sure that the mission aligns, and Folds of Honor provides educational scholarships to spouses and children of either fallen soldiers or soldiers that are highly disabled and just fallen on hard times. The other thing too is Folds of Honor, 91 cents of every dollar goes to those scholarships.
That's a great expense ratio. Yeah.
First responders too, Mike.
Yeah. First responders who we love. I mean, the fact that we could go overseas and fight the enemy, we had comfort in the fact that the first responders were protecting our families back here. And I'm not saying that that we truly believe that. The Virginia Beach Police looked over our families while we were overseas.
Incredible. And how many kids do each of you have? What's the story there?
I have 3.
You have 3 kids. 2. And what are their ages?
19, 17, and 14.
Wow. How about you, Mike?
18 and 14.
Oh man, well, y'all are way past where I am. Do any of your children have any interest in following in their dad's footsteps?
I am the most boring person that my kids know. They express zero interest in what I used to do and currently what I'm doing now. So it's perfect.
Wow. How about you, Mike?
So no, not right now. And I think a good question is, I heard Mike Glover was asked, he's good friends with Andy. He's a retired Green Beret, but if your son wanted to go into the military, how would you feel about that? One, that's his decision once he's an adult. I would support him, but I would say I would have a little unease. One of the worst things I saw is when I came home wounded, and Andy was wounded overseas as well. My dad is one of the toughest dudes I know. And it crushed him to see his son wounded.
Yeah.
We wanted to be over there, and I didn't quite understand what I was putting my parents through, what I was putting my kids through, and putting my wife through. And maybe that's a little selfish in a lot of ways. And now that I've had time to reflect, man, I feel bad that I put my parents through, the 10 combat deployments that I had.
Yeah. Do you think it was harder on your parents or your wife?
I think the wives definitely.
Yeah. Shout out to the military spouses. I mean, because they're holding down the fort here at home whenever, the other person is overseas or doing whatever. And, it's obviously you can't have it without both people. And it's just really incredible to see. I got to meet some military spouses, I believe in Virginia Beach, actually, with my father-in-law. I think it's when he was running for president, or he had just become president back very early on. And it was an experience I'll never forget. It's so tough, and I give them so much credit. It's really incredible what they do. But so we won't look for your kids to sign up tomorrow, but we'll check back with you guys. Mike, you also have a book real quick I want to tell people about, The Everyday Warrior, a no-hack practical approach to life. And half the profits from the book go to families of fallen, as you guys were just pointing out. I mean, I think it's really incredible, that you guys do so much. What's next? What's on the agenda coming up next? Any more big feats for you guys? Any more wingsuits? Because I would like to see more of that.
I got like a dozen of them in the closet.
Really?
Yeah. Moving. Well, I mean, 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 6 is way better than 2.
Wow.
Okay. It's but moving from San Diego, where I was doing the vast majority of my jumping, up to northwestern Montana, I'm a little bit geographically isolated from drop zone.
A little cool up there.
Yeah, and I've been jumping enough, and I have jumped long enough. I could pull a wingsuit out and go have fun with it. But as far as trying to break a record or do anything like that, I'm not going to say the time has completely passed, but it's way lower on the priority list for me.
Well, let me ask before you answer. For a wingsuit, if I wanted to get involved, let's say, with experiencing such a thing, how much prep does one need before you jump off a cliff with a wingsuit on? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, you'd be shocked by the barriers to entry. If you have a valid credit card and a shipping address, you could have all the gear delivered to you probably in about
terrifying
a few weeks if it's in stock. So what you were talking about off a cliff is base jumping, so a static object. The only safe way to do that is to actually know how to fly a wingsuit. So you would need to learn how to skydive first. You would need a couple hundred jumps. You would then need to learn how to put a wingsuit on to integrate it into your skydiving. Then you would need to learn how to base jump, and then you could combine all of those things. But what I just laid out in a few seconds, realistically and responsibly, should take years.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, so I'm not going to do it, in 23. Maybe we'll see down the line. We'll report back. Mike, how about you? What else is on the agenda?
Well, and first off, Laura, I've been jumping since 2003, and I've got over 800 jumps, and I'm awful at skydiving.
Oh.
That's why
this is actually that's the most truthful thing he said on this interview.
Andy can go shove it. So, one of the things I love is, again, Andy and I do leadership development. We come and talk to companies, and part of Legacy is we will stand up these type of trips for companies because you hit university. But I love storytelling, and I love telling the story of other people. I don't like telling my story because there's nothing to tell. We had a crew of special operations guys, a guy named Judd Kaufman, who was an enlisted Navy SEAL, and a guy named Charlie Welker, who was a West Point football player, 75th Ranger Regiment. And the 75th Ranger Regiment is a bunch of badasses. And they want to put together a team of 6 guys to row Drake's Passage, which is one of the most treacherous sorts of, parts of the sea in the world. Mm-hmm. And that's insane. I think they asked if Andy and I were interested, and the answer was no.
Hard pass.
Yeah, but we're going to tell their story because they also have fallen guys that they want to talk about. Wow. And they have a story to tell. So, I'm excited about setting up more of these trips and going on them just from the camaraderie and the brotherhood alone. But there's so many stories that need to be told, and that excites me. So you say, what's next? What's not next? I mean, there's a lot that we need to do. There's very little time, so we're going to move very quickly to tell as many stories as we can. Bottom line.
Very cool. Very cool. Is Drake's Passage, is that going to Antarctica? Did I make that up?
Yeah, Chile to the tip of Chile to Antarctica.
I do know a little something. Imagine that. That's crazy. They're rowing it?
6. Yeah, they want to set the world record. Well, 1, and here's the thing. The seas are so bad, probably the first 3 days, and it should take them 10 to 14 days. I think the current record is 14 days. The first 3 days, they'll be absolutely seasick as they're rowing. So it takes the body a while to get, balance your vestibular system to the seas. It's that alone is just unattractive to me, but we'll follow their journey and we'll tell their story.
Wow, I can't even deal with like a light chop out on like a fishing boat. Oh. So I think I'm probably out for that one. Yeah. But let me know. I mean, maybe I'll be open in a couple of years for like a wingsuit situation or something. I'll report back. But listen, I really want to say thank you guys, not only for your time today and your service to our country, but what you're continuing to do and bring awareness and support, the families and the spouses and, our soldiers, because quite frankly, we wouldn't be here without all of our incredible men and women who serve our country so bravely. And we're just very, very grateful for all of it. So Andy and Mike, thanks for joining us here on The Right View. Keep doing what you do. We'll keep track of what's going on. And to everybody at home, as always, thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here next time for more. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry you didn't get to hear from Darren, but I don't know what's happened to him, but we appreciate it. Next week, this will be out, and we'll make sure to send you guys all the details for it. So thank you for all the time, and honestly, thanks for what you guys do.
Laura, thank you. Anything we can do for you, let us know. You ever want a tandem jump, let us know.
Oh my God. Do you know I have never skydived before in my life. My husband was supposed to take
like 24 hours.
At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, "This is the pillow that I want to sleep with." And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.
Ladies and gentlemen, this just in. We'll keep this a little secret between you and me and them and everybody. Whoa. The people that are actually at the tip of the spear, working directly with President Trump on a day-to-day basis to save this nation, they're all joining us on the Reawaken America tour. We have President Donald J. Trump's Chief of Staff, Kash Patel. We've got Peter Navarro's joined us on the tour. We have General Michael Flynn. We have Eric Trump. The people actually working at the tip of the spear with President Donald J. Trump to save America are joining us on the Reawaken America tour. Whoa. If word of this gets out, if the truth about election fraud, medical fraud, religious fraud, monetary fraud, and mainstream media gets out, it may just save the nation.
The Reawaken tour's coming to our place, hallelujah. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit. Yeah, it's gonna be lit. Wide slam open.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, on May 12th and 13th, the Reawaken America Tour is coming to Miami, Florida, and to the beautiful Trump Doral Resort and Golf Course. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the Reawaken America Tour is coming to Miami, Florida on May 12th and 13th. Get your sunscreen ready because General Flynn, Mike Lindell, Amanda Grace, Julie Green, Pastor Dave Scarlett, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Kash Patel, and Team America are taking the Reawaken America Tour to Trump Doral on May 12th and 13th. And then we're taking the God-fearing, revival-starting Reawaken America Tour into Sin City. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are taking the God-fearing Reawaken America Tour to Las Vegas, Nevada on August 25th 25th and 26th, General Flynn and Team America will be taking the Reawaken America tour to Las Vegas, Nevada. And the Patriots will be staying together at Trump International Hotel, Las Vegas, located at 2000 Fashion Show Drive, Las Vegas, Nevada, with zip code 89109 if you want to send them a letter. And yes, Alex Jones will be live and in person at the Reawaken America tour, Las Vegas, Nevada. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, put it on your calendar. Get those tickets right now. August 25th and 26th. Eric Trump, Dr. Peter McCullough, Mel K, Dr. Stella Emanuel, Owen Schroyer, Alex Jones, Seth Holhouse, Pastor Mark Burns, Pastor Leon Benjamin. We're all taking the Reawaken America tour to Las Vegas, Nevada, ladies and gentlemen. Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's going to be August 25th and 26th. Thus far on the Reawaken America tour, we've featured Dr. Dave Martin, the late great Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, Charlie Kirk, Donna Clement Petruska, Sean Foyt, Karen Kingston, Chad Prather, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dr. Alan Keyes, Mickey Willis, Roger Stone, Dr. Richard Bartlett, and hundreds of patriotic speakers that you know, including Del Bigtree, Thomas Renz, Sidney Powell, Jim Caviezel, Donald J. Trump Jr., Peter Navarro, Klaus Schwab, Yuval Noah Harari, Bill Gates, and the godless globalists have their annual meeting called the World Economic Forum at Davos. But we that reject the Great Reset have the Reawaken America tour coming to Miami, Florida, and coming to Las Vegas, Nevada. Get those tickets at time2freeamerica.com. That's time2freeamerica.com. We have scholarship pricing to make these events affordable for everybody. Every Reawaken America tour event has sold out, so request those tickets today at time2freeamerica.com. That's time2freeamerica.com. Or for faster service, you can send me a personal text to 918-851-0102. That's 918-851-0102. And to be bilingually sensitive, that's 918-851-0102.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by the you know the thing.
We will shut you down. We will cite you, and if we need to, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Period.
I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this.
But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
God actually spoke to me. He spoke about sacredness. He said to me, Kim, what I place in many, many people is sacred. And if anybody touches what is sacred to me, then it is the end for them. So what I've done in the United States of America is sacred. And there are people on every side that are trying to destroy what I deem sacred. And it's not going to happen.
This is the definition of criminal conspiracy, racketeering, and collusion. This is not a theory. This is evidence.
Because I have upheld this country to spread a light to the rest of the world. When you choose to go against the sacred thing that God puts into the very heart and the soil of this nation. This was sacred to God. Now is the time to act. This is exactly why I need some action from my people. Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be with you.